All right. I'm just going to wait for that. There we go. Uh, I had to do a little reviewing while I was eating my lunch today. Still didn't finish it. It's kind of gross. Pesto. Um, just to refresh my memory about what's going on so far in The Alchemist. So, in my kind of rereading, basically, he has arrived at a port and he is ready to make this epic adventure to the pyramids to find his treasure, which has been foretold. Like two, I guess, prophets have told him that he's going to find treasure. So now I guess he believes that he will find it as well. He needs a little help getting there. And so when he arrived, he was kind of concerned with the culture. There wasn't any wine. People don't do that. People were praying. He called them infidels and he accused them of being kind of like others. Like, what are you doing? This isn't how, what happens in my country. And he just didn't necessarily have an open mind when he got there. But he met like a friend, a stranger at first, and he spoke Spanish. And so they were able to talk to each other. And the boy said, all right, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to have to go across the entire Sahara Desert, and I'm going to need to buy 2 camels. And so he's like, well, okay, I just sold a couple sheep, so I have some money. And the friend was like, awesome, great. I'll take your entire like coin bag or wallet and let's get those camels. And so the part that I reread today is the boy was feeling, he was like, I don't want to be rude and ask for my wallet back, but I'm a little concerned here that he has all of my money right now. And he's basically placing his trust in a stranger's hands. So we'll see what happened. I'm on 38. I'm just going to like read a little bit. I'm stopped right in the middle of a section. Super sorry. The boy wanted to believe that his friend had simply become separated by him by accident. Ooh. He decided to stay right there and await his return. As he waited, a priest climbed to the top of a nearby tower and began his chant. Everyone in the market fell to their knees, touched their foreheads to the ground, and took up the chant. Then, like a colony of worker ants, they dismantled their stalls and left. The sun began its departure as well. The boy watched it through its trajectory for some time until it was hidden behind the white houses surrounding the plaza. He recalled that when the sun had risen that morning, he was on another continent, still a shepherd with 60 sheep, and looking forward to meeting with a girl. Oh yeah, he's got that wicked crush on the merchant's daughter. That morning, he had known everything that was going to happen to him as he walked through the familiar fields. But now, as the sun began to set, he was in a different country, a stranger in a strange land, where he couldn't even speak the language. He was no longer a shepherd, and he had nothing, not even the money to return and start everything over. All this happened between sunrise and sunset, the boy thought. He was feeling sorry for himself and lamenting the fact that his life could have changed so suddenly and so drastically. He was so ashamed that he wanted to cry. He had never even wept in front of his own sheep, but the marketplace was empty and he was far from home, so he wept. He wept because God was unfair, and because that's the way that God repaid those who believed in their dreams. So he's having a little self-doubt right now, and he's thinking, because, I'm not experiencing beginner's luck anymore because my luck has run out, I'm being punished for selfishly following my dreams. When I had my sheep, I was happy. I made those around me happy. People saw me coming and welcomed me, he thought. But now I'm sad and alone. I'm going to become bitter and distrustful of people because one person betrayed me. I'm going to hate those who have found their treasure because I never found mine. And I'm going to hold on to what little I have because I'm too insignificant to conquer the world. He opened his pouch to see what was left of his possessions. Maybe there was a bit left of the sandwich he had eaten on the ship. But all he found was the heavy book, his jacket, and the 2 stones the old man had given him. As he looked at the stones, he felt relieved for some reason. He had exchanged 6 sheep for 2 precious stones that had been taken from a gold breastplate. He could sell the stones and buy a return ticket, but this time I'll be smarter, the boy thought, removing from them the pouch so he could put them in his pocket. This was a port town, and the only truthful thing his friend had told him was that port towns are full of thieves. Now he understood why the owner of the bar had been so upset. He was trying to tell him not to trust that man. I'm like everyone else. I see the world in terms of what I would like to see happen, not what actually does. Oh, so he's mad at himself for being a little bit idealistic and for being a dreamer. Aren't we all, though? He ran his fingers slowly over the stones, sensing their temperature and feeling their surfaces. They were his treasure. Just handling them made him feel better. They reminded him of the old man. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it, he had said. The boy was trying to understand the truth of what the old man had said. There he had in the empty marketplace, without a cent to his name, with not a sheep to guard through the night, But the stones were proof that he had met with a king who knew of the boy's past. They're called Urim and Thummim, and they can help you to read the omens. The boy put the stones back in his pouch and decided to do an experiment. The old man had said to ask very clear questions, and to do that, the boy had to know what he wanted. So he asked if the old man's blessing was still with him. He took out one of the stones. It was yes. Am I going to find my treasure? He asked. He stuck his hand into the pouch and felt around for one of the stones, and he did so. Both of them pushed through a hole in the pouch and fell to the ground. The boy had never noticed that there was a hole in his pouch. He knelt down to find Urim and Thummim and put them back in the pouch. But as he saw them lying there on the ground, another phrase came to his mind. Learn to recognize omens and follow them, the old king had said. An omen. The boy smiled to himself. He picked up the 2 stones and put them back in his pouch. He didn't consider mending the hole. The stones could fall through any time he wanted. He had learned that there were certain things one shouldn't ask about so as not to flee from one's own personal legend. I promised that I would make my own decisions, he said to himself. But the stones had told him that the old man was still with him, and that made him feel more confident. He looked around at the empty plaza again, feeling less desperate than before. This wasn't a strange place. It was a new one. After all, what he had always wanted was just that, to know new places. Even if he never got to the pyramids, he had already traveled farther than any shepherd he knew. If they only knew how different things are just 2 hours by ship from where they are, he thought. Although his new world at the moment was just an empty marketplace, he had already seen it when it was teeming with life, and he would never forget it. He remembered the sword. It hurt him a bit to think about it, but he had never seen one like it before. As he mused about these things, he realized that he had to choose between thinking of himself as the poor victim of a thief and as an adventurer in conquest of his treasure. I am an adventurer looking for treasure, he said to himself. Little page break here, so I'm just going to pause to say I love this shifting of the narrative. And so he recognized that in his own perceptions, he was being a little bit negative. And he realized that he has the power to control his own destiny. And he says, all right, the story I'm telling me about myself is that look at, poor me. Look at all these things that have happened to me. I'm, weak. I'm not in control. And he's like, wait, you know what? No. I'm out here. I bought myself that ticket. I'm traveling. I'm doing what I've always wanted to do. So let's find the good instead of dwelling in the bad. So I really like that. I think it shows his character kind of come through, that he does have some grit and perseverance, and he's kind of ready for an adventure now. So here in our hero's journey, he has successfully heeded the call to adventure. Time check. Ooh, perfect. He was shaken into wakefulness by someone. He had fallen asleep in the middle of the marketplace, and the life of the plaza was about to resume. How does one do that? I don't understand. Okay. Looking around, he sought his sheep and then realized that he was in a new world. But instead of being saddened, he was happy. He no longer had to seek out food and water for the sheep. He could go in search of his treasure instead. So he's not tied down by material goods, the sheep. He's free to pursue his life and his dream. He had not a cent in his pocket, but he had faith. And faith doesn't have to be religious here. It can just mean hope. He had decided the night before that he would be as much an adventurer as the ones he had admired in books. He walked slowly through the market. The merchants were assembling their stalls, and the boy helped a candy seller to do his. The candy seller had a smile on his face. He was happy, aware of what his life was about, and ready to begin a day's work. His smile reminded the boy of the old man, the mysterious old king he had met. This candy merchant isn't making candy so that later he can travel or marry a shopkeeper's daughter. He's doing it because it's what he wants to do, thought the boy. He realized that he could do the same thing the old man had done, sense whether a person was near to or far from his personal legend, just by looking at them. It's easy, and yet I've never done it before, he thought. When the stall was assembled, the candy seller offered the boy the first sweet he had made for the day. The boy thanked him, ate it, and went on his way. When he had gone only a short distance, he realized that while they were erecting the stall, one of them had spoken Arabic and the other Spanish, and they had understood each other perfectly well. There must be a language that doesn't depend on words, the boy thought. I've already had that experience with my sheep, and now it's happening with people. That quote is a gold mine right there. I'm gonna read it again. There must be a language that doesn't depend on words, the boy thought. I've already had that experience with my sheep, and now it's happening with people. Love it. He was learning a lot of new things. Some of them were things that he had already experienced and weren't really new, but that he had never perceived before. And he hadn't perceived them because he had been accustomed to them. He realized if he can learn to understand this language without words, I can learn to understand the world. Relaxed and unhurried, he resolved that he would walk through the narrow streets of Tangier. Only in that way he was able to read the omens. He knew it would require a lot of patience, but shepherds know all about patience. Once again, he saw that in that strange land, he was applying the same lessons he had learned with his sheep. All things are one, the old man had said. Okay, pause real quick, page break. All things are one. I think what he's discovering, the language, is that humanity. We share a common existence just by nature of being human. Maybe it's emotional, maybe it's spiritual, but there's a lot of commonality. And I think he's tapping into that right now. For Hindus, and we are, I know that my coyotes are wrapping that chapter up today and working on some review stuff. I'm not sure where you guys are with Miss M, but in Hinduism, in that religion, there's a soul called Atman, and that soul is connected to Brahman, which is like the divine supreme universe. What am I saying? Supreme and divine universal kind of power, and like just reverence for all things. And so, anyways, we're the soul, which is each person has, is connected to that thing. And so, in essence, we're all interconnected. And so, maybe on some level, he's tapping into that. Good God, I don't know. All right, just a brief little section, done, mini lesson, and then on to the rest of your day. The crystal merchant awoke with the day and felt the same anxiety that he felt every morning. He had been in the same place for 30 years, a shop at the top of a hilly street where few customers passed. Now it was too late to change anything. The only thing he had ever learned to do was to buy and sell crystal glassware. There had been a time when many people knew of his shop: Arab merchants, French and English geologists, German soldiers who were always well-heeled. And in those days, it had been wonderful to be selling crystal, and he had thought how he would become rich and have beautiful women at his side as he grew older. But as time passed, Tangier had changed. The nearby city of Ceuta had grown faster than Tangier, and business had fallen off. Neighbors moved away, and there remained only a few small shops on the hill, and no one was going to climb the hill just to browse through a few small shops. But the crystal merchant had no choice. He had lived 30 years of his life buying and selling crystal pieces, and now it was too late to do anything else. He spent the entire morning observing the infrequent comings and goings in the street. He had done this for years, and knew the schedule of everyone who had passed. But just before lunchtime, a boy stopped in front of the shop. He was dressed normally, but the practiced eyes of the crystal merchant could see that the boy had no money to spend. Nevertheless, the merchant decided to delay his lunch for a few minutes until the boy moved on. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Ooh, 1 minute early. Excellent. So we're on the top of page 45. Thanks for tuning in. So feel free to stay on this chat if you need a little help with thesis writing. If you've already spent some time reviewing the document and you feel like I don't need any extra further explanation, I'm all set and I have a solid thesis, then you can go about your merry way. But for those who maybe have yet to look at the classwork or would like a little bit of one-on-one help, that's what this time is used for. So let me just stop recording. Yes.